Lit, Logic, and Reddit bros love to complain and cry about book talk, but does anyone realize that book talk is the dark manifestation of our inability as writers to adapt to modern times? And so today I'm going to force you, yes you, to confront your literary shadow and see how book talk could actually create a literary renaissance. And speaking of literary renaissances, my name is Ian, and here on Write Conscious, I help writers just like you understand the path of creating an educational and spiritual awakening through literature. And I'm going to hit you guys right off the bat. And the reason that book talk is so popular is us literary folks are suffering from an epidemic, because I have worked with hundreds of writers over the past couple years. And the main theme that I find with probably 90% of them is that they are suffering from the my writing disease. Because it's fun and easy to call this girl a narcissist, which she clearly is. But that's easy pickings, everyone. The real narcissism that's actually ruining the artistic community is writers who think that they are only writing for themselves, that the audience doesn't matter, that they are going to do their story no matter what and write it in the way that they want to. And this stems most of the time from educational trauma, whether it is from bullying or more likely them not feeling validated by their parents or by anyone around them. And so now they are on this tyrannical warpath where when someone like me says, hey, the first goal of writing is to communicate a message and help create a transformation in the other person, people can't believe that.
That's not art. Doesn't matter what the audience thinks.
Or, oh my God, actually, Ian, that's why literature has remained strong, because we're just writing about what we want to write about. Movies, art, they've all been corrupted. It doesn't matter if anyone's not reading anymore. And I'm going to give you guys a really easy example from BookTok, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, or Circe. Have any of you guys ever read this novel? So this is basically just a retelling of the Achilles myth from like a BookTok point of view, and the same with her Circe book, retelling of the Circe myth. This is not the most literary novel of all time, not even close, but I love the novel. I have given this book to countless of my students to read, to get them into like mythology and have them start thinking about kind of ancient literature and ancient history. And if I assigned 10 years ago, before this book came out, all the writers out there, all mostly male writers, this task of, hey, I want you to write a retelling of Achilles, what would happen, you guys? Be honest. There'd be postmodernist twists. People would be going as literary as they could because this is Homer. I gotta one-up Homer. But when you look at Homer, most likely the Iliad and the Odyssey started in an oral tradition. It can't be that crazy. It can't be that complicated. It can't be that literary. It has to focus on the base and most important elements of human existence. And if you are going to do a retelling of it, your job isn't to show how smart you are, which what a ton of writers want to do. There's this myth that writers think that if they are the smartest guy on the block, if they write the most literary book of all time, that people are going to want to read it. And if people don't like it, then they are just dumb. But in actuality, if I am going to slog through something that's very hard, then I have to know that there's going to be a payoff at the end. And most modern authors are so disconnected, so unskilled, that they think just because they can make something hard, just because they can make something complicated, that means that I'm going to care. Which in actuality, as we see with books like Song of Achilles and a lot of BookTok books, that if you don't have the simple part down, then people aren't going to care. And so that is lesson number one, that it's better to write a simple novel that teaches lessons, that creates transformation within, than trying to write anything complicated, even if that hurts your ego and makes you feel like an idiot. Because I've read the Iliad multiple times. I've read multiple books, like secondary sources on the Iliad. But when I think of this story, I think of Madeline Miller's version. When I think of the emotions that between Achilles and Patroclus, this is what I think of. That's powerful. And a literary renaissance, FYI, is when 50,000 independent authors are functioning and writing at a high level with the intent of transforming people's lives in various sub niches out in the world. And if we can hit that number, and that number is maybe at most a couple hundred right now, and we all independently go and do that, we are going to get a snowball effect where eventually books are going to become very cool and very popular again. Because right now, most of the stuff that's getting shoved down our throat is garbage, absolute garbage. And so we are losing trust in books. People, I know I have. When someone gives me a book that was written this year, I'm like, do I really want to read this? Who is this person? Did they get this book published because of diversity quota, or because they're a professor at some university, or because of their merit? So next, let's talk about A Court of Thorn and Roses, which has sold over 40 million copies within the last 8 years, if not less. And I think a good description of this novel would be like YA fantasy. And I've actually read it. And once again, it's nothing complicated. A lot of it is just ripping off Harry Potter, but every book rips off each other. There's nothing necessarily too original here, where I'm telling you like, oh my God, you got to go read this book. And I read this because I make my wife read Infinite Jest, Cormac McCarthy, like all these complicated books all the time. And eventually she and her friends were reading this, and she was like, hey, you've never actually read a book that I've recommended. And this was a couple years ago. I was like, all right, I'll read this. Let's go. And even though for a second I was kind of laughing at its simplicity, suddenly I cared about the characters. Right Conscious himself, to talk about myself in the third person, was wrapped into the love triangle. And that's why I want to talk about now love and romance, because unfortunately, a lot of authors who are writing in 2024 have broken relationships and also don't understand modern love. Even the ones who are married, a lot of the time, are functioning in more of an archaic manner in terms of how their relationship functions. And I'm not talking about feminism or like stuff like that here. I'm just talking about how people actually relate to each other in 2024. How people want to be courted, how people want to think about how romance blooms in 2024. And this is where BookTok and modern authors and young authors can actually give us more literary authors better fuel for the fire, because that's so important. I mean, I hate to say it, but at least somewhere in your bibliography, you are going to need some love stories. Someone like Cormac McCarthy basically got away with it by proxy because he would just make a lot of the relationships between brother and sister. And so, the love wasn't perfect and never could be fully realized. Even someone like David Foster Wallace in Infinite Jest, what's the love story in that book? Like, there's small ones. But funny enough, in Infinite Jest, when Wallace has to do the love story stuff, when he actually has to write about romantic relationships, he flips the script and starts writing in this very melodramatic tone that works. Do you know how to do that? You may think that it's simple. You may think that it's easy. So then prove it, because it's harder than you think to get people wrapped into one of these stories. It's not just that you need two hot dudes and some kind of girl that is looking for a loss of innocence and really likes guy A, but then realizes that guy B is the dark manifestation of her unconscious and really knows how to push her buttons. That's not it. From the buildup, from the start, it all leads to that. There are subtle contrasts and nuances in the sentences and the symbols that lead up to that. And if you are just viewing it, which a lot of writers I see are, as this kind of thing that you need to get over with, this thing that just has to be in there and it's just another thing to check off the list, then you are going to fail. Unless you see and understand how important it is that these love stories are there. Not, like I said, in all your literature, but when they are, they need to be there strongly, whether they are positive or super toxic. And BookTok has accomplished that at a very high level. And that is why that for this book, they host balls, they rent out castles, they rent out these beautiful buildings, and everyone dresses up as characters from the book and cosplay and pays $500 to go to these events. And they host them all of the time. Do we have that type of organization? And let me now lose my shit a little bit. Let me now start talking to you. Let me start talking to the people, because right now we are being out-marketed by a bunch of depressed, self-harming 15-year-olds who've been doped up by their parents on pharmaceuticals. And their parents, their suburban housewife moms, who've put the needle in their arm, who've dumped the pills down their throat, are also out-marketing and outperforming us in the literary world. Are we not as good? Are we, once again, do we feel so self-important that we can't make content, that we can't make books. Because what's interesting about A Court of Thorns and Roses, about Song of Achilles, about BookTok books, is that there are people who make content about it who have no dreams of becoming a book talker, who have no dreams of getting their writing read one day. Because a lot of people, and this is what I've noticed, who come onto BookTube, BookTok, whatever, have this dream. They're like, I'm going to build an audience so I can sell my books, or I'm going to become the next big, booktuber. I'm going to be like Right Conscious, or these things. But I would say that 99% of BookTok is making content just to make content. It's a culture. We don't have that here. We don't have anything like that. The most ugly guys and girls, the most antisocial, random rednecks in Nebraska are making content from their bedroom, and it gets 50 views. But it's adding to the pile. Is strength by numbers. And when this happens, it creates an artistic awakening. It starts to make people say, like, damn, people care about this. Well, I'm going to go bigger, Instead of just doing a little TikTok, I'm going to film a professional production and remake of one of the scenes for fun. Guys, that's what blew my mind, and it took me over the edge to actually read these books. My wife is like, dude, you need to see what these people are doing. And there's multiple people, multiple groups who are making videos that aren't making a profit, that are very high level, because I've seen Infinite Jest scene remakes. I've seen Blood Meridian scene remakes. I've seen, random guys who, once again, feel self-important try to remake scenes, and they always have sucked. There's no passion behind it. And if, obviously I commend them. Thank you guys for doing that. Great work. But there is no strength behind them. No one cares. But these videos, I'm looking at this one, 2 million views. But they have this air of positivity and support. When the Blood Meridian movie comes out, we're going to say, oh, Judge Holden wasn't as good as he could have been. If they got a movie to come out or a TV show, they're going to go crazy. They can't lose because they don't let themselves lose. Over here on the literary side, we self-destruct. We have lit bros. We have logic bros. We have Reddit bros that will deconstruct and tear everything down that they can. We have been terrorized by irony. We have been destroyed by irony. And then people say, oh my God, that's anti-intellectual, Ian. That's anti-criticism. Shut the fuck up. You guys don't realize what the stakes are in this battle. The stakes are that we move into a control system that's way crazier than we have now. And we are a bunch of uneducated losers. And we had an opportunity to wake everyone up with real literature. But our self-importance didn't let us make a video, make a TikTok, make a blog post, make a short film, or hit the like button and not talk shit on other people who were trying to do that. That's why we suck. That's why if some girl started to try a woman, I should say, started to try and thirst trap Blood Meridian, everyone, oh my God, it's been ruined. That would be the best thing that ever happened. For the love of God, someone go and do it. I need all takers. I need all different forms of art to make people care, to get people inundated, because that's what these algorithms are good for. If you are into Blood Meridian, you're just going to get a bunch of random dudes with grainy cameras talking about Blood Meridian in the rooms. Judge Holden is the devil. But if you are into the Song of Achilles or the Court of Thorns and Roses, you are going to get some of the most high production quality and some really well thought out content on your feed and just be inundated with it. And I understand that these books aren't transformational, that A Court of Thorns and Roses, can't change your life. And it's not good. I'm saying like, hey, the love story is pretty good. Whatever. It's catchy. It's entertaining. But what could we do with a book that changed people's lives? People love a wake-up artist. People love to wake up and have their mind blown. That's the easiest word of mouth. It's technically easier for us to make your book blow up or make the books behind me blow up again and become popular than it is to force, Song of Achilles or some of these novels down people's throats. We've become so smart and so intellectual that we can find no unity, because no matter who we put up, no matter who we tried to push, they would automatically get torn down with good arguments. The arguments would be good. This is wrong. This is blah, blah, blah. That's the problem with logic, that it's a beautiful frame, but if it's the only frame that you can function in, then you are a loser. And unfortunately, that's most men. They actually may, this is a side rant, they may actually get something out of reading BookTok books, because still in 2024, the main complaint of men is, I just can't talk about my emotions. Yeah, just don't know. Just my dad treated me, never did that in my house. We never hugged each other. It's not hard. Go out in nature, meditate, pray, go do something. And you will have an emotional awakening within. And learn that logic isn't the only frame to function in reality with. So step number one, keep it simple. Write things that make people care and transform first and foremost. Number two, when you're going to write love scenes, when you're going to include that in one of your works, and maybe some of them you won't, that's totally cool. I'm not saying you have to force it in. You need to make it actually good. You need to make it relatable to readers. Don't throw us into your perverted and wacky consciousness and what you think love is, because I understand that that's literary. Once again, that comes back to self-importance. Yes, I understand that's your world. Yes. Oh, here's your gold star. Wow, you're a fucking weirdo. Great job. But what about the people? What about the earth? What about creating less unnecessary suffering through your literature, which is the point? It's not to show off how good you are. It's not to show your story to the world. I have a story to tell. I can't hold it in any longer. They don't care about that. They post okay, and let's get into fan fiction. How much goddamn fan fiction is posted also? There are probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of Song of Achilles or Circe fan fiction pieces, tens of thousands of A Court of Thorns and Roses spinoffs. And those people don't care. They're having fun with it. But once again, it's fueling this kind of air of playfulness and creativity and connectedness because no one's being an asshole. If we're going to create a literary renaissance, everybody has to come along, not just our crew, not just the cool people, not just the smart people, not the people that we can convince to drink the Kool-Aid. We need everyone to come. We need a chain of books. And I know everyone wants to be at the top. I guess we could start at the top. Everyone wants to be at the top of the heap who has the most literary book. But in actuality, a literary renaissance, a rebirth where people actually start caring about deeper books starts with people that are half literary and half BookTok, that have books that sell 40 million copies and then send people down a rabbit hole. And at the end of that rabbit hole, they read Toni Morrison. They read Gravity's Rainbow. But until then, they need to be nurtured. They need to be cared for. Not everyone is like us who has this competitive mindset that says, like, this is how I am. I'm sure you're like this. When you see me saying, like, oh, Gravity's Rainbow is such a hard book, you're like, you know what? I can fucking read that. I'm going to read that. I'm going to start reading some other Pinchon books, and I'm going to be able to do that. And then you sit and you do it, and you're like, yeah, I did it. Well, most people aren't wired like that, unfortunately. And we could complain and say they should be, and that, the education system and their parents and politics have ruined them, and it has. But it's okay to identify causal factors, but more importantly, it's better to implement solutions and put your total effort into that. If you need to sit for a year and understand causal factors, great. I would recommend that. But once that's done, and all you guys already know that, time to get working. And the third thing that BookTok has shown me is that just on a numbers basis, a literary renaissance is possible. Back in 2015, if you would have asked me, hey, how are we going to get readership back? How are we going to make this happen? Especially when social media and TikTok started to come around. I'd be like, damn, this is going to be hard because all these random dumb guys and dumb girls, they don't care about books. They're superficial. But you guys, I am a high school teacher. I have been for the last 7 years. You would be shocked by the amount of kids that are reading. The amount of kids that when I say, hey, we have 10 extra minutes in class, do something. They, instead of pulling out their phone, and a lot of kids do pull out their phone, a lot of kids also pull out a book, and mostly they're BookTok books. When I go to my local bookstore, Bookman's up here in Tucson, I see the excitement with these mostly girls and sometimes even older adults when they go to the BookTok section. Guys, there is a light in their eye. They want to get the next one. They can't believe it. They heard about this online. They've been primed. They've been told that this book is going to be amazing. And then there's the sad other shelves. Like Bookman's is great. It has, my favorite bookstore, all the other books. But the display, they're just in shelves. There's no happy display. There's no marketing. When I walk over there, it's just guys like me going, looking at the books like this in a solemn way. No one's jumping up and down. And so all it takes right now is a transmutation. All we have to do is look at these principles that I'm talking about and realize that the audience is here, that there is a bunch of Manchurian candidates that aren't a bunch of TikTok-brained, self-harming pharmaceutical kids, which a lot of them are. But they are waiting for transformation. They want to be better. They want to understand. They want to be mind blown. They are literate. Even though we are living in a post-literate era where no one's actually very literary and can understand deep things, they are all waiting to either go down the conveyor belt where they're just going to go into hedonism and superficiality or toward an awakening. And they don't really care. And it's honestly really not up to them. It's up to us. And I'm calling upon you right now to take this message seriously. And if you want to be a part of my movement,
I am starting a free writing school over on school.com. The link is down in the description below. And over there, it's going to be the best free writing group online. I'm going to teach you guys in the classroom section how to build your audience, how to be a better writer, how to write more, all that stuff. But we are going to have daily writing challenges, weekly writing challenges, writing contests. Obviously, you can have all your questions answered. It's going to be a community. And I'm going to help you guys get the quantity and hopefully help with the quality too. There's only so much I can do there. But I'm going to make sure that we have the quantity to push back because we need fucking quantity. Right now, we have a quantity problem. We have a mindset problem. And we have a quantity problem. And a lot of you guys are actually good enough writers now that you are trying to write these literary masterpieces. You're trying to be the next Cormac McCarthy. But if you started just actually writing, if you followed Ray Bradbury's short story challenge and wrote a short story every single week and released it, it wouldn't be your best work, yeah. But it'd probably be 70% of your best. And your 70% is way fucking better than a lot of BookTok, everybody. That's rule number 4, that you are a better writer than these people who are getting published. And so that means it's not a quality issue, it's a quantity issue. And that's what they have on their sides right now. And so I'm not saying write a novel in a week. Never. I'm saying spend 3 years on a novel. But in the meantime, pump out some short stories, pump out some poems, pump out some nonfiction essays, get some readership going. It's not hard when it's free online to get people interested. Look at fan fiction. It's not going to ruin your integrity. It's not going to ruin your ability to sell a book. Look at Gabby Hanna. Look at these BookTok people. They do it all the time. What matters is that people care about your writing, you, and your message. And if that is there, then BookTok has shown us people will convert to buying your books. And your book could be something literary. And if they trust you, then they will dive in and then they will be deeply transformed by your writing, by what you're trying to do, by your deep message, which is okay in that context. But when we have 99% of authors not trying to put in any work and then flooding the Kindle and Amazon market with their literary works, no one's going to trust them. No one's going to care. And so let's get going, everybody. Let's get focused. I want you for the literary renaissance. I need you for the literary renaissance. And if you are going to join us, then you are going to have to realize that the dark manifestation of our consciousness is BookTok. It is what we have neglected. It is the cultivation with an audience, things outside of writing, connecting with people that we don't want to do. And so another group of people have taken it from us. It's up to us now to take it back. And so I will see you out on the battlefield of the literary crusade. I salute every single one of you soul jaws out there, and let's get after it.